Hey everyone, we're ready for you today. Super exciting day. I love it to start new projects. It's the most favorite thing, right? Starting something new. Well, this is going to be new for you, but I've been working on it for a while. And sometimes starting thinking I'm going one way and then changing all the instructions and going another way. So I originally had this planned out as a 14-inch block, but we moved it to a 12-inch block because for lots of reasons. Thank you, Heidi. So I'm here today with Heidi and Kaylee and Jessica. So if you have any comments or whatever, they will forward them to me if I need to answer it, or they'll answer them if they know it. But here we all are today, and we're going to start our Joyful Gatherings Quilt-along. But first, while everybody's jumping on, well, here's my screen. I can tell who's coming on. Norma and Deborah and Pam and Patty and Faye and Crystal and hey, Diana and Laura and Jeannie. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to start something fun. Okay, so a couple announcements and then we'll get into Joyful Gatherings. Anything pressing right now before I start? Are we good? I remember to put my lips on. Much too bright. No? Okay. All right. Just a few announcements. Doug Lico is coming the September 14th through the 17th, and there are only a few more spots left. He's got a nice class for that already. We're just looking for a few more people. Katie Puckett is our rug hooker. She is awesome. You're not going to find a better rug hooking instructor. Come join her. That is a week as well, 18th through the 22nd, or half a week, 18th through the 22nd of September, coming up fast. And then All Things Pumpkin with me. One day, I have some cute little things for you I was working on, gluing my fingers together. Glue, yeah, I said glue. But I can tell you that if you're on the fence or whatever, that I have one really cool long project and then one mini quilt. So you're going to get 2 projects for that. That is September 23rd, if you don't see that up there, but you do. And then last but not least, naughty or nice, we have a nice number in both sessions because we had so many people that wanted to join that we didn't have enough for one class to add to the first class. So then we added a second class. So we have nice numbers in both, but we could use a few more to give us maximum capacity. So come and stay with us for those things. They are super fun. I'm putting those over there and it's going to fall in a minute. I don't match very well with my backdrop. I should have thought about that, but it's hot here and we like it hot. Not quite Dallas hot, but darn close. I think I brought it with me, but it was pretty miserable yesterday. We were supposed to go on a boat ride, but my husband said, nope, too hot. I'm not going on a boat. I said, how can it be too hot to go on the boat? Hey, jump in. Jump in. Yeah, right? We just got to figure out how to drive the boat without him. Heidi, you can do it?
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. All right. So let me pick the winner from last week's Twilight Stars winner. Week number 10 already. See how fast they go when we do these quilt-alongs? Teresa DeJager? I probably murdered DeJager. Do the Jagger. Teresa, you won. Heidi will send you some really fun stuff. Do you need this?
Yes.
Okay. I'll save that for you. Okay, any other questions before we get into our quilt-along? So we have a lot of things going on. Isn't that exciting? We have Twilight Stars going on. We have Black Star Flower Farm that just launched. So both of those are Black Star Flower Farm is a free download. We do have kits for those if you want to join along with the same colorways that we're going there, and that one's just shipped, so it's only a month in. Some people have started it early because they paid in full, and we started that a little earlier, so they're like on 4 or 5, but the majority of people are probably on month 1. All right. Twilight Stars, two blocks every week, so we have 20 blocks now, or is 20 blocks tomorrow? No, it would be 22 tomorrow, right, Heidi? 10 would be she's talking. All right. But I'm thinking we have 20 blocks out for 10 weeks, right? For Twilight Stars.
Yep.
All right. So those blocks release on Friday. All right. So I want to get you all kind of set. So Black Star Flower Farm, which is wool applique. We call that a stitch along because we're hand stitching. That one is posted on the 10th, the free download on my blog, lisabongean.com. That's where we're all going here, right? lisabongean.com. That's where all this stuff is housed. And then from my blog, there's a landing page, and you can go wherever you want from my blog. So just look for that, and tell people when you're telling people about what you're doing, how they can find that. That's an easy way to go a bunch of ways. And how close are we to that events calendar, Heidi?
We're waiting on IT to get it all linked up. It's all loaded.
So all right. So pretty soon we have some exciting stuff. So you'll know what's going on every week. And maybe I don't have to read it for you. Maybe you'll just be like, hey, we can flash that calendar and say, here's what's going on at Primitive Gatherings for the month of September. That would be fun, right? Okay, so then, joyful. What's the matter?
I just got a brilliant idea.
You got to write it down because I would forget it. She just made this weird. She's like, oh. I'm like, what? All right, so we'll find out what that is later. But so Joyful Gatherings is again a free stitch along. I was going to say Twilight Stars. You had to buy the pattern for that, but you could use your own fabrics, or you could use the fabric that I was using. So technically it's a book purchase for that one and some triangle papers. So for Joyful Gatherings, we have a free one for you for that as well. However, it's free for a short period of time. So when we post the next blocks, the other block previous goes up for $3. All right, so you got to be on your toes and get those downloads printed if you're not sewing right along with us. And of course, we'll figure out something to give away each time. Maybe once a month, we'll do like a bigger prize until Christmas. So leading up to Christmas, we'll come up with something fun, maybe a gift card for the store that we'll pick, let's see, September, October, November. So maybe 3 big winners, right? We'll put our thinking caps on and come up with something fun for keeping up. And trust me, you can keep up. It might be one of those things that you have to be very persistent, but definitely can keep up, because I pretty much did it in a week. All right, the whole thing. I got 24 blocks done. I saved one to show you how to put the tree together today. And I'm going to be super nice, because guess what? You're going to be able to do all the tree cutting and piecing up front. So then each week you'll just be waiting for the block or two. So we have 25 total blocks in Joyful Gatherings. So what that means is between now and December 1st, I figured it out, and it's so many weeks, and it comes out to 1.5 per week, or 1.5 per something, whatever. So one week you're going to get 1, the next week you're going to get 2, then 1, 2, 1, 2. So you need 3 every 2 weeks, I think, or something like that. Or we'll just put them out as we want, but they're going to come out on Tuesdays. So mark your calendar for Tuesdays for the Joyful Quilt-along blocks. But you will have all of the directions to make the tree parts. So you're going to have all of this ahead here. So you could get all that done. When you have lots of time to sew, you can get all that stuff done ahead. Isn't that fun? Right. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. What was that? I want
to know what the background is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting to that right now. All right. So what do you need to do this quilt along? Now I'm going to tell you suggestions. Some of them are, yeah, you got to have this. Some of them are, but this will make your life a lot easier. And you're going to see how I'm going to use these tools here. So right off the bat, we have used my Joyful Gatherings line from Motive Fabrics. So that is a fat quarter tower. Now I also have one of my girls here, Sherry, piecing the blocks using the fat quarter tower and the background, because guess what? I'm making 2 blocks so I don't know how much fabric we're going to have left from what I use. So I have Sherry, some of you know Sherry, she's down in the store. So she's a excellent quilter and basket maker and all. She can do anything, but she's going to make sure all of our directions are right, proof all my things for me, and make sure everything is perfect for you guys. Okay. And then she's going to let me know as soon as she gets all the blocks done, how much fabric is left for finishing. And I'll talk about finishing in a little later. But to begin, the fat quarter tower is what I used. 8 yards of Bella 9900 182, which is porcelain. So porcelain matches my fabric lines. It's my cream. All right. All my fabric lines, that's the cream that we put in there. All right. Not 200. 200 is a little bit brighter, but 182 is the number for the Bella. And then if you want backing right away, we suggest 8 yards for backing. Now, I want to tell you that the 8 yards for background is generous. I want to make sure that we have enough left of that background for you to do mistakes, for you to do, when I do some finishing things, I might have a couple options. Like I'll be like, hey, we can do this in cornerstones, or we can do this. So some of them might be more complicated and some won't. So 8 yards of Bella isn't that expensive, and it's a basic. So I overshot that. I'm going to tell you right now, I overshot it. If you have a lot left over, you possibly could add a little bit to it and make backing out of it. All right. It would make an awesome back for this quilt. So I'm letting you know that that is oversized. So if you want to be frugal about your background, I would say probably 5.5 for sure you're going to need. But I gave you directions for 8 because I don't know what I'm going to do in those cornerstones. I don't know what I'm going to do on the borders. So just know you might have options. So I want you to be ready. Okay. Any questions on the fabric requirements for what we need? Nothing, nothing. Approximate finished top. Probably somewhere. It's not super huge, but it's not a lap quilt. So it's somewhere around, the blocks are 12 inches and they're set in a jig-jagging tree pattern. They're not in a row or anything predictable. They are moving up and down. And there's like, see, I haven't decided if I want to do 3-inch or 2-inch sashings yet between the blocks. So see, I'm just kind of, I'm way ahead of you guys. I got all my blocks done and I can figure that out right now, but this is how I roll. And some of you are going to hate it. Okay. And some of you are going to just roll with me, but this is how I work. You can ask these girls here, like Jessica has been with me for 15 years. This is how I roll. I don't need to know what my quilt's going to look like when I start something. And like I said, some of you ain't going to like that. And some of you are just going to be, oh, sure, I trust her. It's going to work out, right? Because I leave you some, by giving you more background, that gives me a cushion to play around with that. Okay, does that answer? I'd say somewhere 80-ish by whatever. And you know what? You can do whatever you want with these blocks. Maybe you don't put a border on it, piece border. Maybe you just do something small on the outside. So you can conform it. Maybe you only make, 20 blocks instead of 25. Or maybe you do like 9. Do whatever you want to do, right? That's one thing that's super cool about our quilting is you can adjust for your needs. All right. Yeah.
We have some people saying they went to your blog looking for the Quilt-along, and they can't find it because they went to your blog instead of the button that said Quilt-alongs.
Okay.
So you want to reiterate?
All right. Right. So when you pull up that page and it has my windblown face on it, right? You're going to see something across the top and it's going to say blog or it's going to say Quilt-along. If you want to go to the Quilt-along right away, push the Quilt-along button. And then there'll be all these different Quilt-alongs that we're doing. And there you will find all the information on whatever Quilt-along you're looking for. Okay. Here, Jessica has it for you. So see my windblown face there? She's going to zoom in or clear that up a little bit. You're going to have to like tilt it a little bit. Can you just maybe set it down, Jessica, and she can zoom in here? So you can't see that top part.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Now it's coming. There, we got it. So see the things up on top? It'll say blog, it'll say website, it'll say pattern corrections, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to hit the Quilt-along button right there, and it's going to bring you to the Quilt-alongs. So there you can see all the ones that we maybe had recently or the ones that we're still doing. Okay. So you got to do like a little bit of a stroll. So see there, so there's Twilight. Remember, Oh Say Can You Sew? That was super fun. Congratulations to everybody who won ribbons on Oh Say Can You Sew in the fairs. That was awesome. All right, so there is no Joyful yet, right, Heidi?
It's there. It's just coming soon.
Yep, so it's there because guess what? We're going to put it live today after this. I wanted to talk to you first, explain some things so you know what's going on. Okay? Because it's nice to know what's going on. Okay? All right. Can you hit me some comments so I can see? Thank you. Okay, so besides the fabric, let's talk quickly about a couple other things. So the pattern is going to be a download from my blog, from the Quilt-along button, right? Quilt-along or blog post, Heidi?
Say that again, sorry.
Is the pattern going to be available on my blog post each Tuesday or the Quilt-alongs or both?
It will always be available on the Quilt-along page, and we can certainly do a little blog post just to make sure that people are aware of it. That people
well, yeah, because if they're signed up for my blog, they automatically get the email in their mailbox.
Right, and if they would like to sign up for that, not yet, they need to click on blog, and then when they go into the blog, there will be a sign-up area right up the top.
Yes, so if you don't want to miss a thing and have to pay $3 because you missed one week, sign up for them, and then they're in your mailbox. Okay, so that's one way to not miss a thing. Then, as you can see, and especially this is block 1, we have some half square triangles. So I did use some half square triangles in these blocks. So if you have the variety pack, that's going to get you started on there. So you'll have everything you need but the 1 1/8. I had to make 1 1/8 for this Quilt-along because of the size of the block. All right, and I'll talk about that as we get there. So if you have those two, that's all you really need. But if you have 3/4, we're going to use 3/4, 1 1/2, and 1/2 inches, which are all in the variety pack. All right, but you're going to need a lot of the 3/4. 3/4 is the, what was that? 3/4 is the most popular size that we're going to be using for 3/4 and 1 1/8, I would say. Fight nice, girls.
No, it wasn't her.
I know, it just went, I saw it. I did, and I didn't know what happened because it went on my screen like.
Back in the day when you could switch your neighbor's
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah. Messing with them. Okay. This right here, okay, right there. All right. These are called stitch and flip machine tape. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Kaylee, can you show them this right here?
Sure can.
And I should have did this live, but I needed to sew a block here because when I was in Texas, I sewed everything but one block. So do you see this tape on here? Now, this is my machine bed, and then you see where my acrylic comes in. Oh, this is a good shot. I took my scissors and cut that, and then I cut it here where my insert lies too. So I can open my bob, and then I cut this out a little bit here, so I can open my bobbin case there. I could pull my machine out. I could pull my insert out, so nothing here is solid. So you might have to do that in a few spots. But this machine tape is $5. It comes 7 of them in here, and it's super cool. It stays down. It's nice and flat. It will not roll up on you. But if it does, you have some extras here. So that is $5. And you're going to see why I highly recommend those in a minute when I start stitching. And I know it's like, just stitch, stitch, stitch. But got to do the work first. Now, my favorite rulers for cutting is when I start with my fat quarter is this one. When you cut your background, obviously you are going to need your 24-inch ruler, your 8 by 24 that I have right here. So this is my favorite big one. And again, if you've been with me for a while, you know that my rulers don't have any half inches built into them like the other creative grids. So this is my yardage one. I'm going to start cutting my yardage with this one. But once I have fat quarters, then I use this 15-inch one, this 5 by 15, because it looks like a mini 8 by 24. And then most of the time when I was in Dallas, this was the only ruler in my hand when I was doing the blocks and the trees. This one right here, after I had everything cut out when you're doing the other stuff. Okay. And then if you have the 6, that's kind of the same as the 3 by 7. But at the end, you're going to want this one. This is the 12.5. If you have my 15, that would work too. But do you see how perfect the 12.5 works? Just like that, like magic. All right, now I just lost something that I knew I wanted to talk about. Anybody see those cutoffs I had of my block? They were cream.
They were cream.
They were cream. And I know I had them. They'll show up maybe, huh? We'll find them. But 12.5. This is pretty standard. You probably have this in your arsenal already. All right. But I always like a square up ruler at the end to make my life easier. If there's a 12.5 or you're making 9.5-inch blocks, all that kind of stuff, I like to have that final one. Okay, now.
It's not these.
Yes. All right. Here's why, and I'm going to get to this too. But see, when I cut these, the cream is oversized. I want there to be error for mistakes. I want there to be, like, what if you cut something wrong by 1/4 of an inch? Guess what? You're okay. All right. Because this is how much I trimmed off of each side of the block when I had it. So I want you to know that those are oversized. So if you're perfect, Patty, forgive me, okay? I wanted to be able to trim. When you're doing this many pieces together, and yeah, I could have probably figured it so it was only a 1/2 inch, and when I get to this, you're going to see that this side doesn't line up. Only the green lines up. And that might not mean anything to you now, but it will in a minute. Okay, so after we're done here with our broadcast, Heidi is going to download the pattern for you all. Upload? Oh yeah, we upload, they download. Oh, I got it, right? Okay. So cover, and it might print, you might have to print them separate pages because I printed mine back to back. But if you want separate pages, that's for one for the cover, or you can just print the cover one twice. All right. So you get yourself a little binder for your patterns. And then I'm going to show you this. All right. I don't know if you can get in there good. There, that's better. All right. Up on the top here in this first box, I give you cutting for one block. And we're talking about the trees right now. So this is the cream and this is the green. If you just want to make one test block, that's the cutting for one test block. If you want to cut all 25 of your cream blocks at one time for cream for background mass cutting, here's the instructions for all 25 blocks at once. Then the green fabric for the trees, I use fat quarters, and you can get 2 trees out of 1 fat quarter. Now, if you don't have fat quarters and you want to use something else, then you're going to cut yours one at a time up here. All right. But if you're going to use the fat quarters like I did, this is the cutting for the greens for 2 fat quarters at a time. Clear, right? Clear. So you got some options. All right. Then I'm going to show you the pattern here. This is for laying out. When you lay out your pieces and parts after you have everything cut. Remember, the green is precise cutting. All those are exact measurements. The creams are oversized. Put that in the bank. Remember that. So when you're cutting and you screw up, oh, I cut this. Remember, you have some insurance. Some of you are going to thank me about that later. I know you are, because guess what? I had to thank myself. All right. We're not all perfect. Sometimes we make little boo-boos. All right. So over here, I have started my block. All right. Can I just lay it down here?
Yeah.
All right. Turn it towards me? Okay, awesome. I like this. All right. So do they see that right side up?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was in Dallas stitching, I thought I was on my last block, and the thought occurred to me, is like, oh my gosh, I need to do a tutorial. So I stopped. All right. So I did one side, but then I want to show you how to stitch this angle. So I recut this one here so I can show you the top, how you do the top of the trees, how you do the sides of the trees, and then how you're going to save this. So you're going to lay it all out. So you might want to get yourself one of these big boards here as well, or some sort of foam core board that you can make yourself that has some grip on it. And what's nice about these is I would stack like several of them at a time. So I'd lay them out and then stack them on top, because it doesn't have the fuzzy stuff on the back, so nothing sticks to it. So you're able to stack 3 of them at a time, or however many boards you have. I only had 3 with me. So that's all I could do at a time. All right, so I'm just going to take a break here to take a drink. And do we have anything that I talked about so far?
I think you should say again how people can find the patterns, because people are confused. They think they need to register when they don't need to register.
Okay, yes. So one of the girls, we had a lot of orders that said Joyful Gatherings with a 0. Okay, 0 cost. Well, that's nothing. All right. You do not need to register for this. You need to get some fabric, everything I just talked about. You know, you can get some other things I'm going to talk about, like what color thread. You're going to need a nice cream thread. And I'll tell you what to do when you're stitching a dark to a dark, when you have cream thread. I told you about the triangle papers. Those are the things you need. You do not need to pay for this besides the supplies that you're going to need. Does that make sense? So if you went on our website and put in Joyful Gathering Quilt-along and it came up 0, doesn't mean nothing. All right. So we're not going to fill that order. It's nothing. We're not going to download. We're not going to send you a download. You have to go to lisabongean.com to Quilt-alongs and print out your own pattern. If you do not want to print out your own pattern, we will send them to you. So we will have an option to purchase the pattern only for $8. We will print it for you. Okay. If you come into the store, you can pick up a printed pattern. They already have them downstairs for you, I think.
So $8 plus shipping.
Yeah, $8 just for us to print it, whatever, however, if you pick it up or if we ship it to you, put it in with something else. All right. Because it will have a little bit of shipping on there for you. Okay. Does that answer the question? Does that make sense?
I hope so.
I hope so. Clear as mud, right? So the patterns are available on the blog. Got it, Pat says. Because she was one that had a 0. All right. So this is going to be a very fun quilt-along. And like I said, those of you who are busy and want to just keep stitching, you're going to be able to make all the parts for the trees ahead of time. So that's going to be super fun. That's going to keep you busy. And then each week you're going to have to wait for 1 or 2 center blocks. Okay. All right. So do we have any questions first? Nope. Nope. We're good. We're good.
I gotta turn my camera back on.
Yeah. Kaylee's going to turn up the upper camera so we can show you that.
So we'll be right back.
All right. So hang on a second. We got to. here we go. All right, so in the directions, I tried to clearly explain that one side of the tree is pieced one direction and the opposite side of the tree is a different way. So I'm going to show you. Jess, can you grab me a pencil? All right, so I already stitched these, but I'm going to show you with the one I didn't stitch. So I already stitched that one and that one. Now in the directions, I tell you to draw a line on your fabric. I don't draw lines, okay? But that's what everybody else does. So let's see. Okay, overhead, Kaylee. All right, so here's my green. And this is how you're going to do all the right side ones. So all you're going to do is put that exactly on the corner like that. And then at this point, when I was in Dallas, my machine base was white. All right, so I can't do it on that. So right here, I just take my pencil and I put a little dot right where that corner is. Can you go up? Can you see this?
I mean, you can, but it's kind of
all right.
difficult to see.
So I don't draw a whole line from corner to corner. The directions tell you to make a dot 2 inches down and draw that line. You do not have to do that. I just put a little pencil mark right where that corner is. And then I go in and put that up there into my thing. Now you see my paper here? Can you go above?
Oh,
All right. So right here, this dot is going to follow the center line into the machine. So when I start stitching this, this is following, I'm looking right here. I'm not looking at my needle. I'm looking right at that dot and I'm following it right into the machine. And then I would pick up the next one and run that one through and run that one through and run that one through. That's how you're going to do all those. And I would just pick up my pencil, make that little dot and run that through. Make that little dot, run that through. Or you can do that all at once. All right. So then what you also can do now, and I know some of you are like me, and when you do stitch and flip, you have waste, but there's no other way around it in something like this. But if you want to make something out of this waist triangle, all you're going to do then is move this stitching line to this outer line on the stitch and flip tape, and you're going to follow this line right here into the machine. So now I have 2 lines. All I need to do, and you can do this with your rotary cutter as well, is cut them apart, and I will have the angle I need here, and I have a half square triangle to make into something else. Okay. Now these are going to be like 1/2 inch finished. All right. But they're still awesome. And you will have, I think, 14 of them off of each tree. So just saying. Some of you will be like, oh, heck no. All right. So you just sew the one and then you just trim that away and you can discard that. There's all types of us out there. So you choose what you're going to do here. So then when I went to iron this, I'm going to press it toward the green because I don't want a shadow of that green on my cream, because sometimes you'll just get a line of that green. So see how I have this, all 4 of those all stitched, and then I stitched my trunk already. Okay, now I'm going to take the top of the tree and I'm going to line up my other one. So this one, I know that I need an angle going this way. So that's pretty simple, right? So I'm just going to take my pencil and make my little dot there. And then I'm just going to turn it and run. Let's see if I want to do it that way. Could flip it this way too and run it that way. But this is the way I'm going to do it. All right. Point to dot. So I'm just going to run that point right there. Point of the rectangle. Here's my dot. And I'm going to run that through. Maybe. Now my machine has a thread cutter and a knee lift. That's why I'm not touching this. I don't ever do that. I use my knee lift here. So if you don't use your knee lift that comes with your machine, get that baby out. So you can always test to make sure that it looks good before you trim it off. But I always like to make sure I have a 1/4 inch here and that everything looks good. So then I can trim this off with my scissors or my rotary cutter. I'm going to press toward the green. So I can just lay that way. All right, so there's what the back of that's going to look like.
Hey, Lisa.
Yep.
Who taught you how to sew?
My home ec teacher. But I'm kind of a weirdo. I mean, I think I come up with my own ways of doing things and stuff like that. So I'm going to mark that pin.
Can you just move up and do that a little bit?
Yep. So here I'm going to mark this here again. And then I'm going to slide it in. Make sure I get it under my feed dogs a little better this time than what I did last time. Now, if you're a marker and you want to mark that, go right ahead. But I don't, and if you want to sew that, you would sew that. But I'm just going to say, or you can run them through this way too, after you cut them. And then maybe you could even do a smaller seam allowance if you wanted them a little bit bigger. So there's so many options. Okay, if you wanted a little bit bigger triangle, you could do it that way. But then you're going to have to trim these because there's no triangle paper involved and nothing is going to be accurate. All right, so now for the second part of the tree, we're going to, again, press it toward the green. And lay it back up on our design board and do the next one. Mark my little corner there. There is another tool out there if you got lots of time in the world, and that's Doug Lico's ruler to do those, to cut those corners off for you ahead of time. But see how I like to just give that a nice little finger press to get it to the direction I want it to go in? Look at, I can press left-handed. Okay, so then these are already stitched. So I would go ahead and just keep doing that on this side, all right? But now that I have these top 3 done, I'm going to show you how I put those together. So I just lay the top one there, and I'll be honest, I didn't find the center. I just went like this and laid that on there, and then I eyeballed this right here to make sure this was in the center. So I put that in there, and if you want, put one little pin in right there in the center. Now here's what I'm talking about. Your green is set, but these might not always line up on this edge when you put them into your machine. This one does, but then you're going to run that through. Take my pin out, lay it back down. I'm going to open that seam, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to do it when I have 3 of them ready to go. So I'm just going to park that underneath there for a minute. I'll line this one up. Again, eyeball it, and then right here, I didn't press that very good, did I? So now put that back on there, flip that one to there, even that out. You know, not all pine trees are perfect. All right, just keep that in mind. Remember when you went and got yours from the tree farm, how they're not perfect. So if that's off a smidge, nobody's going to know. All right, so line those up. So see how this doesn't line up? Don't make that line up. It doesn't matter. Just feed them through and we're going to trim. And that's why I wanted to show you this on demo, because I wanted you to know that those creams are oversized and not the same. Yes, Heidi.
Are you using a 1/4-inch foot?
Yes, I am using a 1/4-inch foot that I had to buy extra for with my Juki.
Your machine is quiet.
They think my machine's quiet? It's noisy compared to the new Bernina. That's all I'm going to say. I'm waiting for my inserts for my Bernina. Oh, and I remember another thing. I did this on purpose. When I recut that one to show you how to do the right and the left side, do you see how I cut one short here? But it's not going to matter because we have enough to trim. And that's why I wanted to show you that sometimes if you make a boo-boo, like I miscut this piece, but it's still usable because I still have like almost 1 inch to cut off on some of those. And I might have cut that one a little too short, but we'll figure it out. So then, if you don't have a strip stick, get yourself one of those. You'll line that up on your stick, and we're going to open up that seam. And sometimes I just like to just run my finger down there, so it just makes it much easier. And the Moda Girls had a different strip stick, so you might see me use that. I'm going to order one of those in. Just because it had a couple different options on it. I know, right? They all do the same things, and I'm pretty like, oh, you don't need that. That's too much money. But, it was kind of nice. So sometimes nice is worth money, more money. All right, so I opened up both of those seams. And then now I'm going to press them nice and flat as a whole. Okay, so then I put it back up on my board there. Okay, so now when you put these together, you're going to always line up the green. The green is important. The cream is not. Oh, I didn't trim that one off. Quick, get that one. Since I didn't trim it, I didn't press it right either. There we go. Make sure they're the right. The long one is on the bottom. All right, how are we doing? Got any questions?
Yeah, when you square up 12 and a half.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
It says when you square it up, you square off 12 and a half. That's the question. Yeah, the block is 12 and a half.
The block is 12 and a half. So the block is already 12 and a half. You just make sure, the top from top to bottom is 12 and a half. We're just really squaring up the sides. But when you piece all of these together, you should pretty much have 12 and a half. Like I didn't cut anything off the top and the bottom of my blocks when I squared them up with that 12 and a half inch ruler. They were already good. Yes, I do. That's why I had to take my jacket off. Too much pressure, right?
Are we ever going to have the fancy strip sticks in our store?
Yes, we will. We'll carry them.
Yeah, right, eventually.
They're like lots of money. We will have them. The Moda Girls said I need to have them. And I used it. They didn't have these there. I used their fancy ones. And I'm like, okay, I can see. So see this? That's what it looks like. And yours probably won't be this obvious or this bad because I did adjust some of these. Because remember, I was testing. All right, so I don't want to take up a lot more time, but you see how you have your top ready, you have your sides, you do the other side, you do this, and then I'm going to piece the block for you because the first block is pretty easy. All right. So then once you have your block done, the skinny, let's move this out of the way. The skinny one goes to the top. The chubby one goes to the bottom. And these are like compensating strips, so it'll match up to this when it's done. It'll fit exactly here. And I didn't want the block to be right at the seam here. Like I didn't want this block to come right to the end there. That didn't look good. It looks better nestled inside of the tree. I don't know if that makes sense, but that'll go on there. That'll go on there. Okay. And then this is going to go on there. So you're going to piece that all together, add this, add that, and then we're going to square that up. You think I have to do that for you, or you think you got it? All right, you determine whether you want me to finish this up on camera, and I'm going to start with the next part. So I'll let you debate it out. Okay, so here is our directions for block 1 right here. Okay, so it gives you directions if you don't want to use the triangle paper, but then you gotta do some finagling, and I don't know. The triangle paper to me is so much faster. So I give you the sizes to cut your rectangles or your squares for that'll fit your triangle paper. Okay, so this one's easy. It's just a little friendship star block. We have 4 creams, 1 red, and then the 4 half square triangles. So just a little refresher on half square triangles. We want to put right sides together, paper on top, and you can trim as much or as little as you need for that to fit on there. And then you're going to lower your stitch length, shorten your stitch length to 1 or about half of what you normally stitch at. All right. So I do have my 1/4 inch foot on here. I would normally switch to my more open foot, but for this little demo, I'm just going to run these 4 short seams with this on here. Because you've done it too, I know you have. So I'm going to stitch on the dashed lines.
I'm gonna hold that up so they can see it.
So I'm stitching on the dashed lines. I have 2 more to go. This one here. There. So that's how quickly that goes. So I need my rotary cutter and my little 3x7.
You wanna push it up towards the middle?
Good.
Yep.
And you probably want to do this standing. You don't want to do this sitting, but hopefully I'll have enough leverage to do it. You'll have more if you're standing. Kind of a bad angle. I got a little cut there. And now I'm going right, I want to cut right on that solid line. And these solid lines are very thin. So try to get right on them. And then go in between. Okay. Sure, I picked the crappy one. The one that needs to be changed. Okay, so now I have all my papers. They're still on. I'm going to flip to the dark side. I'm going to press these open, Kaylee. So what I mean by open is I'm just going to take this and flip it back. So I'm opening up the half square. Okay. I do not press my half square triangle seams open, ever, ever. All right. Some people do, I do not. All right, so now I'm going to pull the paper off at this point. So I'm going to hold it right near the stitching, right in the middle with my left hand. I'm going to take my right hand, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to pull that right off and pull that paper. So now they're ready to go. And by lowering your stitch length, that's what helps make this paper perf off. And then at this time, you can quick snip off your dog ears or your quilt seeds. Yes, I love watching everybody collect their little dog ears for their quilt seeds. I'm working on a project at home, and Nick is doing the ripping of the paper and quilt seeds off. Okay, so that's just waste. I like to use my ruler a lot of times to move that out of the way. Okay, so now here is my quilt block. So I'm going to look at my directions and place them all the way around. And I'm starting off with an easy one for obvious reasons. And they will get, I don't want to say they're going to get progressively harder, because I don't want to save all the hard ones till the end, right? I want to, sometimes when I give you two, I might give you an easy one and a harder one, but nothing is not going to be doable. So just know that. So now I'm just going to put these together. Move my length back to what it should have been. When you get used to your machine, you'll know how fast those are supposed to be running through there. You'll know that your stitch length is not what it should be, that it's lower. And then if you have one of these, I love using this. They make them in all shapes, different sizes, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to go there. This is going to go here, maybe. And then I'll figure out which way I'm going to do these seams. Okay. So when I have a center that is open, I'm always going to press to that guy. And this is pretty big pieces. 1.5 finished for me is pretty big. So if this was a smaller block, I'd probably press them open. But since it's 1.5, so these are going to go that way. The center ones are going to go in, and these are going to go out. So I'm going to just lay that, sew the rest of them then, and do all the pressing at the end.
Oh, there's a person that has never heard of quilt seeds before.
Quilt seeds. So if you haven't seen them, there's some pictures on my, I don't remember where they were, but I put them in mason jars and I saved them, and I've been saving them for 20 some years. So I have lots of them. I think in one of my Martingale books, they were in there as a little photograph there. So to the outsides.
Do you think it's worth having a rotary cutter that's dedicated strictly for paper?
You could. I just use the endurance blades. So they that one that was in there, I don't think that's an endurance blade. That was somebody else's. This is Studio. See, these are mine, but I don't know where that other one came from. But you can do what you want.
And then what's your favorite size? Do you like 40?
I like the big one. I like the 60 for sure, all day long. I like cutting multiple layers. When I layer my fabrics, I want to cut as many as possible. So when you're doing that background fabric, I have the edge, like your fabric is folded in half, and then I'm going to take the end and I'm going to fold those two ends together, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces at a time. So I want that big blade to go through those, but you must be standing. Sitting here cutting like here is not a good idea. So now I am going to open up this seam here. So I almost always open up row seams. And even these they nest so nicely. If you want, you could put a pin in them, but guess what? I don't if I don't have to. When everything is even and then everything, all right, you got it? When everything is even and everything is nesting, I don't pin. But make sure, you know, like when you're here, I could see that these were nesting beautifully and they were, one's going that way and one's going that way. And I could see that they were perfectly fine. But if they're not, then that's when you need to pin, right? And make things fit to the end and stuff like that. So I didn't really talk about starching. So if you're not a starcher, maybe this is the one project that you start with. Start starching your fat quarter tower and your background. All right, so when people say square your block up at the end, all right, I don't really do that. I don't put my 4.5 inch or my 5 inch ruler or my 4.5 on there to make sure it measures that at that point. I pretty much just take my block and I just kind of take off the little strings from piecing. So that's all I'll do. And sometimes I'll get a little wonky corner, and you know, and I take a little bit of that off to straighten it, because when you're pressing with steam and stuff like that, you'll get a little bit of wobble here and there. But I just take mine like this one. I see I got a smidge. I got a smidge there where that one is sticking out a little bit. Can you see that? Can you go
I can go in close.
dive deep on that? So you see that little skip right there, just a smidge. Now, if I pinned, I probably would have got that, but you know what? There, it's gone. All right, so at this point, your block should measure 5 inches. They finish, look at that, perfect, see? So that's all I really do. I don't put a square up on the end until all the block is done, and I just use it to square up those rough edges, okay? Now, some people might not like the fact that I didn't, those creams aren't exact, but they're not writing the pattern, are they? There's reasons. And like I said, I want a nice clean edge. When you're sewing, how many seams is that? 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 8 seams going there. I want to just square that up that way. Okay? How are we for time?
You're at 2 o'clock.
We're at 2 o'clock. All right. Is anybody going to be distressed if I don't finish this? Are we good? I think you're going to be good, right? And besides, I'm going to be gifting my blocks to one of my friends. I told her that I would gift these to her because I don't want to make another quilt. So said friend is going to get those. She peeked up first. So if you have some questions, I'll just keep sewing while if you have some questions before we end here. Okay.
Which quarter-inch foot do you use with your patterns, scant or regular?
I would say, I mean, it's just a tricky question because a scant was great when you didn't start. Because a scant, then your fabric would be shrinking while you're pressing and doing all the things. But now that we starch, pretty much this quarter-inch foot is a, I wouldn't say it's a true scant. I would say it's pretty much, when I measure it, it's just like a smidge. Is a smidge a scant? I don't know. When I measure those seam allowances, so when I look at this, it's literally, the line is just like on the outside. The seam is on the inside of my quarter-inch line. So when I'm looking at this, it's like right on the inside. So some would say, yeah, that's a perfect quarter-inch. But is it really? Or is it just on the inside of that? So I don't know. Trick question. Starch makes all the difference in the world, though. Because sometimes if you starch and you sew with a scant, your blocks will be big. Or your blocks will be a little bit bigger. Because your block is not shrinking while you're making it. Okay?
All the blocks be 5 inches.
Yes. So now you know why I needed 1 1/8 inch, right? So any star block that has divided into 4 grid, that's 1 1/8 inch finished. So that's why I needed that. Good question. I'm going to make your girls into smart quilters, right? All right, what else we got? Anything? All right, so watch me do this. So I got that up, like the pattern says. I'm going to move it to this side. I'm going to make that line right there. And I'm going to sew that line, and then I'm going to make sure it's right. Yep, that's the right angle. So I'm going to put that right in there. What's up? That one wiggled a little. Oh, well, right? Oh, well.
Lots of people are getting their Christmas boxes as we speak.
Right? Awesome. I know it's so hard. I impatiently wait for that for the first person to tell me that they love the box, and then I can breathe a little bit better after I know somebody loved their box. And then, you know, it's like, oh, best box ever. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know, we can't possibly give you the best box ever all the time. So
Just a reminder not to show it on social media, the Christmas box, just because everyone has not received them.
yeah. So we do try to keep those a secret. Well, no. Yeah. Try to keep it for a secret for a little bit.
For a little bit.
For a little bit.
They
For a
haven't
little
all
bit.
been picked up, so.
Yeah. Just try to restrain yourself just a little bit so people don't know what's in their box before they get theirs. But I mean, I would say give it maybe about a week. A
I would
week?
say like after
Labor Day?
No, I would say a little later than that.
Okay.
Just because we do have people from like Canada and England have bought it, and Australia, so like
Spoiler.
mid-September. After we release it.
Just saying. No matter what, now that it's gone out though, price goes up.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. If you didn't order it, that's the rules. We sell it at a certain price until we ship it, and then we jack it up a little bit because those who trust us get the best deals. Hopefully I sewed all these right while I'm talking. All right. Because I didn't make any mistakes while I was at retreat. Liar.
So, Lisa?
Yeah.
Can you just explain how you put the stitch and flip onto your sewing machine again?
Okay.
Like, how did you line up the lines and all that
Okay.
on your machine?
All right. So this is what your tape looks like this. Okay. So if you can, if you want, the easiest thing to do would be to line up this ruler right in the center hole of your foot and on your machine. And then I would just take a little pencil or a little marker and I'd draw a line. Then you remove the paper like so, and then you put it as close up as you can before your feed dogs, and you would just line that right up on your line that you drew on your machine. That's the easiest way.
Line on the tape.
Center line is right in line with your needle. All right, that's where that's going to go. And then you trim out anything, like I said, in between my insert. There was a little bit hanging over here on my door that I just cut out. And I told Jess, oh God, I should have probably did this live on TV while I did it. But this machine did not have this on yet. So I just did it right before we did. And this is, you just kind of pull it apart here to get it separated. And it never works when you're on TV. I have no, it's just because everybody's watching. I did it just fine before. Or you can cut it anyway too. So if you only want it this long, you don't do big things, it doesn't have to be big. It can be short. You could cut these in half. You could give some of these to your friend, all that sort of thing. But if you probably just take an edge and trim an edge, and then you can get it to come off better. I have these nails that need to be done, and so they're like all rounded off now, and I have no good edges on here. Here we go. I got it now. If I can hang on to it. There we go. So I got underneath it. So it's kind of like frosty. And then you would just put this right on the center of that drawn line. And I would just like tack it a little bit near your needle like that, and then make sure it's going on your line how you need to do that. Okay. So it is pretty simple, but it's exactly for following all these edges in here. All right, so I got that one done while we were doing some questions. You got any more questions? Just keep going, and I will keep going here. Maybe I'll be able to trim this up. You had one?
What did you get done at your retreat?
Oh, I got so much done. So I got all of these blocks done. I got all 24. And like I said, I left this one half done because I knew I needed to do this. And then I learned to do crochet on the edge of it was a tea towel, but I want to do it on the edge of a pillowcase that I made. In the yarn, the girls went to the yarn store for me, and it was like linen thread or linen yarn. It was, and I'm sewing this onto this block because I'm not doing this one because I already did this one. This is the last one I needed to do. But so Ducky, who's been a long time Moda employee, you probably know her if you've gone to any of the shows. She was always in Moda Bake Shop. She's the one that taught me how to do the crochet. So it's a little tool. Jess, you have one of them? I think I'm going to be talking about it on Comment Sold. It's right there. I can see it right from here. All right, right there. So there's this really cool tool called Edge It. So one of them is a hook that pierces into your project so you can make the hole to crochet it. So the first one, you're using that crochet hook, and then the second one is when you don't have to do holes anymore. So that's a little product that we're going to be selling on Comment Sold. So now, do you see what I got here? Look at how those just match up. So I'm just going to do this one to this one here. So I will pin these. Like so. All right, so we have a block with much more seams. So if you do have one that aren't perfect, and just pin in the middle and then pin on the edges. And then if you got a little bit of a baggy one, which is my block is a little bit bigger, I'm going to put that down near the feed dogs.
Quilt show?
No, we don't have enough. Please join us. We have some, but we could always use more. All right. So this seam, I did not, oh, I can't press on that. This seam, I just pressed to the side. I didn't press this one open. Just that block just naturally, it was just an easy press to that side there. Okay. So now look at how fast we're going now, right? Now I got to line these babies back up. So this one goes to there. That one goes there. And sometimes you're going to wonder, oh, is this one shorter? So just line them up like this and know that which one, the shorter one, they go from shortest to longest there. So now I'm just going to sew these together, and then I'm going to just do that. And let's just quick do it, okay? So keep asking me some questions, and I can square this baby up at the end. Anybody got anything?
Where do you find the quilt that's behind you?
The quilt behind me is in the Joyful Gatherings book. It is a beautiful book with 6 or 8 quilts. I don't remember. What is it, Jess? How many quilts?
Actually 7.
All right, a bunch of quilts and a bunch of projects like pillows and garland and cross stitch. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Kaylee can flop it for you while I'm sewing, or Jessica can show her.
It's 6 quilts, bunch of products. Oh, look, it's Heidi's copy. It's the only one I could find.
I wonder where that went.
I just grabbed it, so you would not know.
Yeah.
And the quilt is called Holiday Wishes.
Yes, it's a beautiful quilt. So remember, when you line them up, you're only worried about the green matching. Don't worry about the cream. So I know that's different, but it's very freeing. Yes.
Do you starch the charm squares in the quilt box before sewing? And they want you to repeat the questions because they can't hear you.
You can't hear you?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question was, do you starch the charm squares in the boxes? Like if we are in the quilt box and you get a charm square, most definitely. All of our samples have been made with starched fabric. We do not, I shouldn't say never, because sometimes we will say, don't starch it. All right. If it's very simple piecing, we won't, like if you're just going to sew the 2.5-inch charms into 2.5-inch squares, we won't have you do it that way, because when you starch those charm squares, whether they're 5s or 2.5s, they're going to shrink one way and not the other way. All right. So it is, but you're going to starch all your fabrics. You're going to starch your background. You're going to starch. So see how nicely this one matches perfect. So I will stick a little pin in there just because I got all those seams and I don't want anything to move on me.
Can you let them know again when the first block for Joyful will be released?
All right. So sometime today, after comments sold, Heidi will get this up on the blog under the Quilt-alongs. It'll probably be in both spots.
Today it's probably just going to be under that Quilt-alongs.
Okay, so under Quilt-alongs is where it's going to be first.
And they can always find it under Quilt-alongs. It doesn't,
Right.
Even if there's not a specific blog post that goes out, which there will be, but if they're looking for something in the past, just go to that Quilt-alongs.
No upper.
tab.
Okay, so just kind of watch. So see, I mean, if you want, you can do this, right? You can find the center and you can find the center. I don't have that much time, okay? So I just lay this on here and go, yep, that looks good. Okay, so that's how I do it. But if you are Perfect Patty, and I'm not trying to make fun of Perfect Patty, there's all, like I said, we all have to do what we have to do for our own whatever, but I am way overdone being Perfect Patty. I am much happier being done than perfect. And it's not like I don't try, but some things matter and some things don't. And knowing what matters and knowing what doesn't is part of it. All right, one more.
I got something for you.
Okay.
Says Lisa, you always call quilts beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, etc. Did you ever see a quilt and say, "Wow, is that ugly? Man, is that ugly?"
Okay, maybe, but we're all different and we all like different things. So to somebody else, that quilt might be gorgeous, but we all have our own likes and dislikes. That's why I'm never offended when somebody changes something that I do, or they don't, oh, I don't like that black background and I want to do something else. Hey, it does not hurt my feelings. I do not care. We all have likes and dislikes. It's just how maybe you go about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't try to be mean to anybody or anything like that, especially when you're at a quilt show, because if you go up to a quilt and you say, oh my God, what is she thinking? And she might be right there. She might be right there. So kind of always be aware that, to do constructive things, just don't go up there and say, oh my God, that's ugly. Okay. That's just not good. You just say, oh, that's interesting.
Even with their kids.
Yeah. So just kind of always be hyper aware where you are, who's around you, and just try to be nice in general. And then you don't have to watch your mouth, right? You can just be like, yeah, that's good. Okay, look at what we have here. Oh, one more seam. Get that puppy back out.
We've got a done Donna and a done Debbie. They like to get it done, not a perfect Patty.
Yeah, right. You know what? That's too hard being perfect. You know, it's too much pressure. I mean, I get that some things have to be precise. When you have to be precise, I mean, and we all try. Don't think I'm just slopping stuff together here. I want to have fun while I'm doing this. I want to get stuff done. I want to do things that are difficult and hard, but it's not the be all end all. I'm not going to like throw my block out if everything's not perfect. You know what I mean? But I will try. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I am not going to be all upset if every one of my points, if there's some points off. All right, so do I have a big enough mat here to trim? No. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's do this. The girls organized the studio while I was gone. Isn't that amazing?
And you've lost a lot of things.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Okay, so we don't have an above camera. But what's half of 12 and a half? 6 1/4, right? So we're going to find 6 1/4. I get rid of all those halves. I hate those halves. But sometimes this one doesn't have it. But the ruler I had at Moda had a white crisscross where the center of the quilt was. This is an old ruler. So I'm just going to put my 6 1/4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 1/4 right on that point. I'm going to line it up the bottom. Look, so I got a little bit of a wiggle there, but I'm not going to cut it off. I'm just going to trim the sides. So another thing you want to look at too is when you got 6 1/4, is it right in the middle of your block? Maybe I can move it over a smidge. Doesn't matter. Okay. End of the day, right now, my block is 12 and a half. All right, so see my little wiggle? Okay, maybe I'll trim it. And see this? I like to trim that too. I like to get those hairy things off. But I don't really trim a lot of the thing. I just mostly try to get threads so it's nice and clean and neat. All right, I did it all for you. I didn't plan on doing it all, but I did it. If you want to look at the back, press most of it open so you can see that.
Stop moving it.
I had to get the fuzz off.
And I did. I wasn't planning on it, but a couple people asked. So all of these things that we had talked about is at the end of comment sold today.
This is block 9, just in case you want to know. This was difficult because you can't really tell, but this is 2 different fabrics in this half square triangle. But there's not a lot of difference in my reds. I tried, but when you cut them down little, there's not a lot of contrast. Okay. I got a mess here now, but
One last question.
okay.
Is it too late to order our holiday box?
We didn't change the price yet.
We'll be
And
soon.
they can find that.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, it's going to go to what, like 125 or 130?
I have to double check with prices now because we had upped the price before.
Yeah.
So I'll have to
Right.
look.
So right now it's the original price. So if you want that holiday box, go grab them. That's the question if you didn't hear that.
And they find it under.
Specialty box.
Specialty boxes. Search specialty boxes, or is there a button for specialty boxes?
Nope, it's specialty boxes. Kaylee can link it later, right? We did put it in a couple posts.
Yay! I have all 25 blocks done. Yay! You went. That was pretty big feat, just so you know. And I had a lot of doubters living with me that week that didn't think I was going to pull that off, but I did. So I did a lot of other things too, and it was a great fun. So if you've never been on retreat, treat yourself. Go on retreat. We know a really good spot you could go to. All right. And every other year I go there and then they come here. So that's really fun to hang out with the girls and the guys. There's a guy, Doug. He's just one of us. We don't even let it even phase us anymore now. It's just so natural. All right. Anything else before I let you go? Comment sold is coming up next. Okay, everyone. Later on today, download your pattern. We'll get it uploaded.
It will be up before the evening comes.
Okay. Bye, everyone.